President Paul Kagame. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, and a Happy New Year. Thank you for taking the time to meet here with members of the press. Mr. President, before we take questions from them, may I ask if you would like to deliver any opening remarks? Thank you, sir. We will now begin taking questions. Anyone with a question? Please remember to introduce yourself and the media house you represent before asking your question. Can we have microphones around? Vincent, Kigali today.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Vincent Gasana. I work with the KT Press. So it seems a startling thing to say, but all things considered, the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo could be ended in a mere matter of days if everybody else were to acknowledge the real causes of the conflict openly. But instead, people seem to be intent on focusing on claims from the UN group of expert reports. There is the recent statement from President Joao Lourenço, for instance, on the M23 Rebel Alliance entry into Masisi, seems to go on a supposed threat to territorial integrity of the DRC instead of the real causes of the conflict. So one wonders, Your Excellency, beyond signing more agreements that a lot of the signatories tend to promptly ignore, can Your Excellency envisage anything else that can be done to bring everybody around the real causes of the conflict and focus on that and get beyond the impasse and the obvious impediments to peace? Thank you very much indeed.
All right. Much as I said, I didn't have much to say, as was prompted by the moderator. Let me first of all welcome you and once again wish you a happy new year. I hope the new year will bring blessings to all of us. I think we had time to talk about the last year. And the last year ended well. We are now in the new year. As a country, as a people, this country and our partners and myself, we hope we can continue the good progress we made last year and do even more, including probably realizing peace in our region. We are looking forward to that. So that is the starting point of my answer to your question. This problem of Eastern Congo, which I have in the past even explained as not just Eastern Congo problem, but Congo's problem as a whole, and the problem for our region, the problem for our continent and the rest of the world. But every time it is referred to as Eastern Congo problem, in a way rightly so, because it is centered there. But the cause of it and many factors that perpetuate that problem are from different parts of the world, including from the big countries as we know them, the powerful countries as we know them. In fact, that problem has roots in the history of that country, the history of our region, and the history of our continent, relating to even the early days of colonial time. That's why many times I'm surprised. Let me go straight now to the issue raised, talking about, say, sovereignty, territorial integrity. As you said, in the statement made from Angola, how do these matters arise really, in a sense? M23 you talk about. These are Congolese. Even to the admission of Congo's leaders, the past and the present. Now, why are they fighting? Why do we have over 100,000 refugees here in Rwanda, originating from that region? Why? Why do we have refugees here? Is it because Rwanda wants refugees and attracted them from Congo to come to Rwanda? I said the first question, M23, why would they be fighting? They just like fighting. So, in the fighting that is happening in Eastern Congo, and you call that violation of sovereignty, territorial integrity, how does it arise? So, on one hand, these are Congolese. On the other hand, they are foreigners. So how do they combine these two identities? How do they happen to be Congolese on one hand, and then they are foreigners who have invaded Congo and therefore breaching everything about sovereignty and territorial integrity? Maybe they mean something else. Let me also try to explain that. Those who make such statements, I would remind them and remind you here, and I know you know, people play like they are ignorant about things, yet they are supposed to be experts of that. This fighting that is happening in Eastern Congo, that has been going on for these last years, you mean here in this room, people don't know how that started, where it originated from. These groups fighting in Congo, the fighting that was started 2 more years ago, these people fighting did not come from Rwanda as of the time the war started, or they started the war fighting. Maybe I even don't know whether it qualifies as such. These people they are of Rwandese background. I don't know whether it would even be right to say they originated from Rwanda. Most of them, Congo found them where they are or where they were. It's not that there was a movement from Rwanda. Maybe some might have originated from Rwanda by this movement from Rwanda to that part, long ago. Even either before I was born or when I was a kid myself. But what I meant that Congo found these people there has to do with this history I'm talking about, of colonial times and the drawing of colonial borders. But that's why also the Congolese leaders at one point admit that these are Congolese, and then try to find another reason and say, oh, but the fighting is supported by Rwanda. But they can't tell anybody and convince anybody that the actual people who are fighting now, who started this fighting we're talking about, came from Rwanda. They did not come from Rwanda. These leaders of M23 and the majority of their fighters came from Uganda, where they had been as refugees who ran away from, or as a result of solving the problem of 2012, 2013, when these people moved to Uganda and others came here. I remember for specific actually number, those who came here were between 500 and 600, whom we disarmed and gave back arms to the government of DRC at the time, and had been kept here for a long time until when things as they kept changing, the government of DRC used to send even their officials to come and speak to people here where we had held them in camps, to speak to them purportedly to resolve their problems. It went on back and forth for a long time. The problems were never resolved. But these are not the ones who started the fighting. And if you want to see where these people, most of them are still here. The fighting was started by the main group that was in and from Uganda. So how did it become Rwanda's problem, honestly? What is the basis? And for how long do we explain this? Up to what point? These people, the ones who lead this, and then the other hundreds of groups fighting in Eastern Congo, have nothing to do with Rwanda. The only reason Rwanda comes into question now for this is for a couple of reasons. One, these are Rwandophones, they're speaking in Rwanda. Well, but that is also what maybe became their main crime in Congo. So if they speak Kinyarwanda, that has turned into reasons for persecution. And that's why we have refugees here for over 2 decades. The other reason is the FDLR that has been, these genociders who have been in Congo for the last 30 years, whom the international community have really entertained. I think they have deliberately preserved them. I don't know for what. Whether it is a gift of thanks to them for having committed a genocide here, or preserved them because they are anti-Rwanda and government, and therefore they would use them as and whenever that is possible against Rwanda, to control Rwanda, to manage it the way they want. Otherwise, tell me, part of the reason is MONUSCO, this UN force, is in Eastern Congo, in the DRC, was actually to address this problem of FDLR that kept changing names over time. But after 30 years, if you ask the UN and say, what happened? If you really ask them what they've been doing for the last 30 years they've been there, and with tens of billions of dollars they have spent on it, what is there to show for that effort that was made? Only to end up blaming Rwanda for everything that is happening in Eastern Congo, or really in Congo, because even all problems of Congo are blamed on Rwanda by these so-called international community members, and together and in support of the DRC government. If DRC government is not encouraged to take its own responsibility for its people and its country, and everybody joins them to blame others for their problems, how do you expect Congo to actually address these problems that affect all of us? How? So the statement you referred to, therefore, is part of this, I don't know what to call it, honestly, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up for any solution to the problems at hand that we need to be addressing. I don't see how. Well, I imagine a scenario where if we didn't have Rwanda at all, or if you could relocate Rwanda to another part of the world and remove it from here, would that solve the problems of Congo or of the region? Really? So, and people get lost in the blame game, it is this, it is that, and forget to really address the root causes of the problems we have and find a solution. And then you have geopolitics being played into all this. Then you have the blame of colonial times being managed somehow because those who were involved in the colonial times and who are blamed for it have the power to manipulate, and always fall short of doing what is right. You find they have groups they create, they say groups of experts. I mean, how do you expert in doing what? Then you find the groups of experts. These experts are led by people who are supposed to come and really cover up the blame that should be leveled against those who are responsible for those literary crimes of that past of colonial times. And they've been here in Eastern Congo or in Congo, groups of experts. What expertise? Expertise to come and tell lies? You know, these groups, the people making up these experts, you know, in broad daylight, killings, persecution, all kinds of stuff are done by people they see, government leaders in Congo, commanders, people belonging to either the police, the army, in broad daylight lynching people. This one is kept quiet about, and then the next, these experts write a whole, they pile up crimes committed by M23. They talk about things somewhere in the background in the villages, and they don't talk about these things that were done in towns, in broad daylight, before their eyes. Then they talk about, you know, M23 violating, you know, human rights and so on and so forth. And then Rwanda behind supporting them, and Rwanda is supposed to be there stealing minerals of Congo. So the whole thing is shifted from what the problem really is to some other imaginary problem they have created. And they really make people believe that.